Hello everyone, let's be real. We're living in an era where Hollywood spends $300 million on a sequel, and it still looks like a PS3 cutscene. But here's a secret, the big studios don't want you to know. Money doesn't buy soul. Some of the greatest, most terrifying, and most hilarious movies in history weren't made in a high-tech studio. They were made in garages, on maxed-out credit cards, and by actors working for literal pizza. Today, we're looking at 20 masterpieces that proved a tiny budget isn't a death sentence. It's a superpower. We're talking about the David versus Goliath stories of cinema. From 1960s classics to a viral slasher that shook the box office just months ago. Grab your popcorn, because these ROI numbers are about to get insane. George Romero didn't have money for zombie makeup. He used chocolate syrup for blood and ham from a local butcher for flesh. They literally changed the horror genre forever using grocery store leftovers. A few gallons of chocolate syrup and a revolution was born. The dead didn't just rise. They conquered the box office. John Carpenter couldn't afford a custom mask. He bought a $2 Captain Kirk mask, spray-painted it white, and created the most iconic slasher in history. The actors even wore their own clothes to save on wardrobe. A $2 mask and a haunting melody. Michael Myers didn't need a budget to become your worst nightmare. George Miller was an ER doctor who used his own earnings to fund the film. To save money, they used actual bikers as extras who had to ride their own motorcycles to the set, because there was no budget for transport. Real bikes, real crashes, and a doctor's life savings. Witness the birth of an apocalypse on a shoestring. Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell shot this in a remote cabin. It was so cold and miserable that by the end, they were burning furniture to stay warm. The shaky cam effect? That was just Sam Raimi running through the woods, holding a piece of wood with a camera nailed to it. No stabilizers, just a camera nailed to a board and a dream.
Groovy.
He doesn't even begin to cover it. Robert Rodriguez raised half the budget by checking himself into a medical research facility as a human lab rat. He wrote the script while locked in the clinic. He only had one camera, so he'd film a scene, stop, move the camera, and have the actor repeat the action to simulate a multicam setup. $7,000 and a lab rat's blood. One man proved you don't need a crew to make a hit. Kevin Smith shot this in the convenience store where he actually worked. He could only film from 10:30 p.m. to 5:30 a.m. while the store was closed. To explain why the shutters were always down so he didn't have to show it was night outside, he wrote a joke about someone putting gum in the locks. Maxed out credit cards and a night shift. Proof that a funny script beats a shiny camera. The actors were given less food each day to make them genuinely irritable. The directors communicated via notes hidden in GPS canisters. When the actors scream at night, they are actually reacting to the directors running around in the dark making noise. 3 students, 1 camera, and a forest full of secrets. The ultimate ROI king. John Hader was paid only $1,000 for the lead role, though he later negotiated a share of the profits. The tater tots and the Liger drawings were the peak of low-budget aesthetic. tater tots, and a dance routine. Awkwardness turned into $46 million. James Wan and Lee Wan-el were so broke they couldn't afford a running shot. The entire movie was shot in 18 days. The dead body in the middle of the room, that was actually the writer, Lee Wan-el, sitting there for days because they couldn't afford a realistic dummy. One room, 18 days, and a puppet on a tricycle. Game over for the competition. Director Oren Peli spent a year fixing up his own house before filming. There was no script, just outlines. The actors improvised all the dialogue. Steven Spielberg famously got so scared watching a screener at home that he brought it back to the studio in a garbage bag because he thought it was haunted. A $15,000 house and a shadow. The ultimate nightmare for the ultimate profit. Shot on digital handycams on the streets of Dublin, they didn't have permits, so they used long lenses and hid in shops, so the actors looked like real buskers. It won an Oscar for Best Original Song, beating out Disney blockbusters. Street music and hidden cameras. A simple song worth a fortune. After Saw, James Wan wanted to prove he could scare people without gore. He shot this in 3 weeks. Most of the demons are just actors in simple face paint, not CGI. Don't look behind you, unless you want to see a massive profit. Red lipstick never looked so scary. Damien Chazelle couldn't get funding, so he made a short film version first to prove it worked. It took only 19 days to shoot. Miles Teller actually bled on the drums during those intense takes. Not quite my tempo, but the box office was perfectly in sync. Sweat, blood, and pure gold. A deeply personal indie film that went on to win Best Picture. It proved that a small, intimate story about identity could resonate globally and outturn movies with 50 times its budget. 3 chapters of a life, told with heart, and rewarded with the highest honor in cinema. Jordan Peele's directorial debut was shot in 23 days. He used his comedy background to master the timing of horror. It became a cultural phenomenon and changed the social thriller forever. Jordan Peele wrote it to be unfilmable because it was too risky. He shot the sunken place scenes by hanging Daniel Kaluuya on wires in front of a green screen in a tiny studio. The intensity of the performance saved them millions. This movie is a technical marvel of less is more. It was filmed in the director's childhood home in Canada. He used vintage lenses and extreme grain to hide the fact that there was no set. It went viral on TikTok, proving that a specific vibe is a marketing goldmine. Danny and Michael Philippou turned down millions from big studios to keep creative control. They used their YouTube experience to do most of the practical stunts themselves. It became A24's highest-grossing horror film in the US. A ceramic hand and 90 minutes of tension, from YouTube to the top of the world. A clever found footage concept set in a 70s talk show. By sticking to one set and focusing on style and performance, they created a hit that punched way above its weight class. Live from the Underworld, a talk show you'll never forget. Small budget, devilish returns. This is the little indie that could. Director Damien Leone raised $215,000 of the budget on Indiegogo because studios wouldn't touch a 2.5-hour ultra-gory slasher. It had no major marketing budget. It became a hit because news reports of people fainting and vomiting in theaters went viral. It ended up earning over 60 times its production cost. This is the current David beating the Goliaths. Despite being an unrated, extremely violent slasher, it opened at #1 at the US box office, beating a $200 million Joker sequel. The director, Damien Leone, does most of the special effects makeup himself to save costs. A clown in a Santa suit and an unrated script. Art the Clown is the new king of the box office. So, what's the lesson here? Whether it's a Captain Kirk mask or a broken wheelchair, the message is clear. Your constraints are your best friends. When you don't have money to throw at a problem, you have to throw imagination at it. You don't need $100 million to tell a story that people will remember forever. You just need a camera, a few friends, and an idea that won't let you sleep. Which of these movies is your favorite? Is there a tiny budget gem I missed? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to see more deep dives, hit that subscribe button.